I'm Jacey Lees. I attend Richland High School in North Richland Hills, Texas. I'm a senior in high school and I'm 17 and I play softball.
What's your GPA?
Mine's a 102.5 out of 100.
It's what?
A 102.5 out of 100.
Okay, time out. So you don't have GPA that's like
We
4
don't
point.
do a 4.0 scale.
So it's like, holy mackerel. But you're still above the
Yes. Yes.
interesting.
It's because
Okay,
it's because I'm in AP classes, so it's weighted higher.
I see. And your favorite class?
Oh, my favorite class is probably AP Bio.
BP Bio.
That's what I want
And
to do in college.
okay, so you're going to college. Where?
So over the summer, I'm hoping to commit to Swarthmore College up in Pennsylvania.
Wow. And that's quite a ways from Texas. What city is that in Pennsylvania?
It's right outside of Philadelphia,
Okay. And
about
why
5 minutes
there?
from the airport. Hmm?
Why there?
It's close to a lot of my family, and also the weather is much more bearable there than it is in Texas.
So it's hot.
Yes, it's really hot here.
So biology, Swarthmore College, that's the plan, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Um, Pitching. When did you start?
Oh, so it's actually a really funny story. I used to be way back in rec, like way too long ago. I was probably like 5. I was a catcher, and I kept bugging my dad to let me pitch because that's what I wanted to do. And at a tryout for rec, they were like, "Okay, who wants to pitch?" And I raised my hand, even though I was supposed to be a catcher. And that's how it all started. I think I was like, I was 5 or 6.
Holy mackerel. Okay, so you've been doing this for a long time and you wanted to.
Yes.
You wanted to pitch. And it was that from watching baseball or softball or what was the yearning for that?
Um, yeah, so I think it was around the time that like Monica Abbott and Kat Osterman were pitchers.
Okay,
And I wanted to be like them.
got it. So you had some examples that you had seen. Got it.
Yes. I really love like the work that has to be put into it. It's an art and it gives me something to focus on outside of like school and stuff that I can be like, okay, here's something I need to work on and focus on to fix things. And it's just an outlet for all my energy.
So there's something to, so when you say fix things, it's to get better at pitching?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Like
And
there's so many things that go on mechanically that it's hard to pinpoint like what's going wrong. But once you figure it out, it's like it's a light bulb moment and it makes you like so proud of yourself.
you had a good year.
Yes.
Explain a little bit about your good year.
So I I reached over 500 career strikeouts. I think I had 232 on the year, which is the most I've ever pitched. Um, and as a team, Richland High School made it to the regional quarterfinals, which is the farthest that we've gone in 9 years. And that was a big moment. And we also beat the number 2 team in 5A in our state.
That's great. Congratulations. That's a lot of success,
Thank
right?
you.
Both individually and the team, right? Which is what we're looking for. That's why Coach Stephanie reached out to me, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm glad she did. Super fun to work with you guys this year. So,
Mm-hmm.
favorite memory from the season, and then we'll start talking about your strengths and win like a girl a little bit.
My favorite memory is beating beating Alito in the area round of our playoffs. It was nobody expected us to win. But as a team, I think we all knew that we could and that we had a chance. And it was just the second game that we won. It was just a relief, and all the emotion came out, and I think all of us were crying because we were just so excited because nobody expected us to go that far.
Good. And so then let's talk a little bit about the fact that Coach Stephanie reached out to me and said she'd like to have me work with you girls, which I was super excited to do. And we made the Win Like a Girl journey. We measured your strengths. We focused on controlling the controllables, how you behave as athletes, how you kind of championship behaviors. We talked about confidence. We're practicing that, right? So as you look back over the Win Like a Girl journey, and we only met two or three times. So, but what do you remember most from that?
The one thing I remember most is drawing our inner critic. That was a fun exercise because it really helped to put into perspective how minuscule that part of your mind is and how unimportant it is. And I think as a team, kind of bonding through that, it really helped bring us together. And during practices and games, whenever it got really hard, we were able to like come together and be like, just shove it out of your mind. We can still do this. And it was a really important part of our journey.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. When you drew the inner critic, and I don't remember, what does your inner critic look like? Can you describe it a little bit?
So I pictured it as Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. The really kind of scraggly and beat down character. And because I mean, really, it's just comical. Golem is, and that's how I wanted to picture my inner critic, is something that I can just laugh at.
That's it, right? And just because it's there doesn't mean it's true, and you have every right to fight back against that. Coach at some point texted me or emailed me and said, you on the mound said you were boxing with your inner critic.
Yeah.
Do you remember saying that?
Yes. I think it was during one of our regular season games. And it was a team that we had lost to previously. And I was pretty nervous coming into the game. And I just had to really beat up my inner critic and put that aside so that way I can go in and do what I needed to do, which was win.
Way to go. And did you do that before the game, during the game? How did it work for you?
So it was really before the game that I was super nervous, but at times during and throughout the game, it kind of resurfaced, and I really just had to overcome that so that way I can continue to support my team.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. And boy, that's hard to do. And I give you so much credit. And leaping ahead a little bit to the your StrengthsFinder results. And those are consistency. And your report, which I so enjoyed reading, talked about how you like that routine, that process. You're drawn to things that are step by step by step by step. Yes. And working towards goals, et cetera. Then into that's your executing talent, right? That's get it done, and it's how you get things done. And I think about the anytime you watch a pitcher, male or female, there is a routine, right? And you stick to the routine.
Yes.
And then intellection, which is think and think and think and think. Context, which is looking backward, right? So maybe your past, you aren't just interested in history. Your past, it may either haunt you or help you, right? So there's
absolutely
looking backward thinking. And then input, lots of information, and then learner. So you are like this brain that pitches, right?
Yes.
You happen to pitch. And so that inner critic would be even stronger, I think, for you, meaning it would have more fuel because so much of what you do, so much of your strengths, your top 5 strengths are thinking, right?
Yes.
And I talk about, I've been thinking about how to describe thinkers, and I used to think we should have a group called Overthinkers Anonymous. But what I really think it is Uber Thinkers Anonymous, because there are times when it really serves you well. It's not that we don't want to stop thinking, right? So, but Uber thinkers need to be aware that they are going to think something to death and can imagine something that may or may not be even on the radar, right? So,
Absolutely.
as you learned about your strengths, did that help you understand yourself better?
Yes, it really did. I kind of always like I always have a routine and I know that, and so that's why I wasn't super surprised at consistency being number one. Um, like day to day, I have things that I need to do every day in the same order, and like game day routines are superstitious. Have to get Dunkin' Donuts every morning.
Oh my goodness. Breakfast of champions.
Yep. And it's interesting because I feel that you don't really see a whole lot of people that look back in their sport. Like a lot of my teammates had futuristic and things like that. Like Reese Davis was definitely the most forward looking there was. Um, but I really think that learning that about me helped me to contribute to the team and be like, hey guys, this is things that we've done in the past. So let's work on that and continue to build so that way we can look towards the future.
Excellent. That's outstanding. It is exactly how to best utilize context. And you're right, that first of all, in the athletes in general that I've worked with, and it's now close to 1,500 men and women, male and female athletes, futuristic is way more common than context, way more common. And it's way more common than the regular people on the street or people that other people have taken the StrengthsFinder. But context is one of the least common thinking strengths on the planet. And we kind of touched upon that. But so that gift you have of helping them anchor in the past to build that future, right? That's really powerful. And it's great that now you know that about you, right? And that's the challenge with your results is 4 of them are thinking and no one can see what that is because it's entirely a movie inside your head, right?
Yeah.
So in the past, would you have communicated that perspective?
I try to a little bit. I'm definitely one of the people that does like the scouting reports on our team. I go back and look at our past games and I try to remember what like pitches were thrown and how hitters did. And I try to communicate with that to my team about that. But now that I've learned that's kind of what makes me different among the team, I definitely try to communicate that more. So that way we're more well-rounded and developed going into a game.
Yeah, great. And, carry that forward because in the regular population, right, as you go into college, there are not going to be a lot of people with context. You're going to find other thinkers in biology, but they may or may not have context, right? So that is a gift that will serve you well your whole life, is my point, right? And so it's super awesome that you're learning about it now, right? So, okay, good. In your role as an athlete or a student of consistency, intellection, context, input, and learner, which of them do you think serves you best?
I really do think that input and learner help me as like a student and as an athlete because I'm constantly craving that need for feedback, what I can do better, what I'm doing wrong. And as a pitcher, that's helpful because you constantly need that this is mechanically wrong and you need to fix it. And with consistency, I can go out in my backyard and pitch till I get it right and pitch until I can't get it wrong. And academically,
I love that.
um, academically, it really serves me to want that input because with the career that I want to do, it's very STEM based, and you're going to need a lot of input on that, like research projects and final papers. You're going to need to know what you're doing wrong, what you need to correct, and the fact that I already want that and that I'm already looking for that really helps.
It's kind of validating for what you've already been doing all along, which is normal because like these strengths just didn't arrive when you took the StrengthsFinder. You've been doing these things all along. We just simply have a name to put to the behaviors or the thought patterns, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's an excellent analysis. Which that's so kind of how you're using them. Is there one that you think gives you the most trouble?
I know that I really think all of them give me trouble at some point because, like you said, I'm an uber thinker and I just can think my way into a hole, basically. But I really think that consistency is the one that gives me the most trouble. If my routine is thrown off, I'm off the whole game. And it's an issue that I've been working to overcome. And knowing that this is kind of the root cause of me struggling in a game or academically, having a name for it helps me to fix it.
Good. That's great. And you're correct, right? And if only life were consistent, everybody followed the process and the plan, there was never any change. Well, good luck with that, right? I mean, isn't the way it goes. And it certainly isn't the way it goes in sports sometimes, right?
Yes.
Rain delay, a whatever, right? And so you have to that's where adaptability or want to be kind of go with the flow a little bit within those parameters, which are consistent for you, right? But that's a fine line to say, here's the parameters, and it's like the banks of a river, right? And the river goes like this because the banks go like that, but it'd be so much easier if it was just straight and there was no, right, and narrow. Yes. But life is not straight and narrow.
No, not at all.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's so exciting. I'm really excited for you. One of the things we did was talk about the great escape from comfort castle as we were working on confidence, right? Because nothing good happens in the comfort zone and trouble will find you, right? So when you worked on like one thing a day outside your comfort castle, what sort of things did you do? Do you remember?
So one thing that I find that I'm not very good at with my team is communicating during practice in a game and being that leader figure for especially the underclassmen. So every day during practice and even in like my classrooms, I tried to be a leader. I tried to do one thing that would be encouraging and try to help guide people to do things correctly. And as a pitcher, I think as a battery in softball and baseball, your pitcher and your catcher need to have the most leadership. So that's one thing that I tried to do to get out of my comfort castle. Also, I feel like especially in women's sports, being energetic and celebrating a big strikeout or a big hit is looked down upon sometimes. But being able to have that confidence within your team to celebrate those things helps.
I like that. Both of those are outstanding, right? And what an interesting perspective. And I think a lot about the gender differences in sport, meaning how we treat people, women that are really competitive versus how men are really competitive, or women that are pushy versus men that are pushy. Look at Coach, right? Look at her strengths. I mean, you don't get much more pushy than that in a good way. So to find those ways to do those things and lead, right? That's super important. I appreciate that and Coach did say to me, and it was, I don't know, even remember when, that one of the things she was so pleased about was early on, you'd said you didn't want to lead from the front. And these are my words, right? I don't want to lead from the front, but that you kind of changed your mind throughout this journey. You're like, no, I do want to lead, right? And to your point, pitcher and catcher and quarterback and receiver, the pitcher and the quarterback, that is a leadership role, whether you like it or not, right? There's only one of you doing it, right? So that's good. Can you give me an example of how you encourage someone in class or in the younger kids coming up, for example, the people below you on the team in ways you might not have done otherwise?
So on the team, we have a lot of younger girls, and I partially credit that to our success that we've had in the past couple of years. It makes people want to join the team, and that makes me excited because we're getting people to fall in love with softball. But one thing that I always tell them is that, yes, it's going to be tough. Yes, you're going to be pushed until you think that you can't be pushed anymore, but you can be pushed more. And I just tell them that this is only going to help you. You're going to learn to overcome that adversity that you think you're facing, and it's going to help you in the workplace, in jobs. And I just try to be that calm figure for them, to be somebody that's not overly reactive to being yelled at by coaches or getting critiqued. You just have to take it and say, yes, ma'am, and put it into action. At least try your best. And that's the thing that I think they need most, is to just tell them your best is good enough.
That's awesome. And to hear that from another player, I think it has an entirely different and more significant impact than hearing it from a coach or an adult or a parent, right? I think peer-to-peer learning, like you're just describing, and peer-to-peer leadership is where the magic is, right? And if you can get people to do that, like you have, right? You chose to do that, and your words have meaning, and that I can only imagine how that young person felt, how much more confident they felt that you believed that they could do it, right? And that's the big challenge with female athletes. Almost all of them need you to believe that they can do it before they'll believe it themselves, right?
Yes.
So let's just embrace that and help them do that, right? So wow, that's outstanding. Your last game, tell me the last game, right? So what were you, first of all, were you pitching?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So there was a season ending after this great run, right? When, by the way, it's very unfortunate there can only be one champion, but there is only one champion. Yeah. So what happened last game?
I really think that we had beaten, this is a team that we play in regular season district play. And every year since my freshman year, we've split with them. We've split the series. They won one, we've won one. And I really think that we let that fact psych us out, and we let the moment get bigger than it was. Mm-hmm. We all really just wanted to do well for our seniors, because they were such a big part of the program. And it was an emotional moment, and we let that get the better of us. But we will have a lot of returners next season. So I'm hoping that we take that emotion and we put it into motivation.
Good.
So that way we won't let the same thing happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. That moment being too big is such a challenge. And again, that's a mental thing, right? That you can only do it one pitch at a time, one play at a time, right? One inning at a time. And next year, one of the things I spoke to Coach about was what could we have done differently. And I do wish I'd had that opportunity to talk to you before that, your team before that game, because one of the things that I have come to understand is that the history, and this has been something we can talk about next year too, the history of not just the season, but all the years that you have all put in training for this moment. And that's always there, right? And so tapping that kind of endless river of greatness that you've been preparing your whole life for. And instead of focusing on the score or that we've always split, right? Doesn't matter, even with suspicious ball players, is the idea that that they now's the time to focus on being great teammates, to work like heck, to compete like heck, right? Control those controllables, because everything else is not controllable. So next year maybe we'll do that as and I thought about reaching out to coach, but I never am quite sure, and this is something I need to do better, of sticking my nose into somebody else's season, right? Because I really would have, as I saw you advance, I'm like, I wonder if we should have one last little pep talk thingy. Because when I've done those with teams, they've really responded well. Now, it's not always a win, but that really helped them prepare for that moment, right? So that's all right. We'll do it next year, right? And as you said, it's fuel for the next time. One last to bring this in for a landing. You've been awesome. And first of all, any other thoughts on the journey or any aspect of the season or your strength or anything else you'd like to say?
I would like to say that I feel like the exercises you've given us and just doing the strength finders has helped us connect as a team, so we can understand what each person is trying to say, and how just because we perceive someone as being rude or, oh, they're yelling at us because they're just mean, it's this person's just competitive, and that's how they respond to and that's how they want others to respond to tough times. Mm-hmm. And I think that doing this has helped us realize that about each person.
That's so helpful, isn't it? I mean, what you're saying, and I wish I could say it as well as you are, is that every person on that team in any given moment has an experience that they're seeing through the lens of their strengths, right? So you may be thinking they aren't learning from the past. Other kids are thinking we've got to fix the future, right? Or competing in that idea that we might lose versus focusing on the relationships or whatever, right? So the point being, everybody has a unique set of strengths through which they view the world. So instead of, I don't like you because you're doing things differently than I do, you then see why, and they can see you. I mean, how many other players on the team had forward-thinking strengths in their Nobody
I don't think anybody.
Nobody did. So that the frustration diminishes. It may not go all the way to zero, and the appreciation increases, and that changes everything, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And you can't look at anybody and say, well, they look competitive to me, right? I mean, maybe they are, maybe they're not. So the value of measuring that's a great observation, and I'm glad it helped the team. Mm-hmm. And can you, without naming names, can you think of one or two where you're like, that person drove me nuts and now I have a different perspective on it?
So when I came in as a freshman, there was a girl that was a year older than me, and she was always very aggressive, and it intimidated me. But now knowing like her strengths and how she responds to different events, it makes sense. It's like, oh, that's why she's doing things the way that she is. I remember one time during a game, I swung at like a changeup, and it wasn't the greatest hit, and it ended the inning. And she was like, and she yelled at the dugout. She's like, "We got to do better than this." And you could just see like a lot of people were like, "What is she even talking about?" Blah blah blah. But like after like looking at her strengths, it's, oh, she's just being competitive, and she wants people to respond to that.
And she thinks by saying that's going to help. Right?
Yes.
Which, in generally, that's probably not the best message.
Yeah.
Right.
But looking back on it, it's something that you could just laugh at and appreciate that person trying to encourage people.
That's such a great point. And that changes that simple mind shift. And that instead of all your energy going towards, she's the meanest person ever, it's like, oh, she's just being blah, blah, blah. And just like you are the Uber thinker, right? So, and follow the process, right? There were not many of those on that group either, right? So, excellent. That's great. And one last thing about that whole concept of learning someone's strengths, did that change how you understood your coaches?
Yes. Coach Graham is notorious for being hard on people, but knowing that she's just really competitive and she wants to have that control, it makes sense, and you're able to just think, oh, she's pushing me, she wants me to be better, rather than she's yelling at me and I'm just gonna shut down mentally.
Outstanding. That was a big one. When I saw her strengths, I was like, holy mackerel. She's not a normal female coach or a normal female athlete, right? So yeah, and I think that's helped her understand it herself better too, and be more focused on giving you guys what you need, which may not be the food that she offers most of the time, right? So there's a balance in there, right? So excellent. Last question for you. Any thoughts on speaking to young athletes that might hear this someday, on helping them move outside their comfort zone without that fear of failure, without that fear of what others are thinking or might be yelling at them or whatever?
I just want to say that, like, you think that your coach is being really hard on you, or they may not like you, but getting that feedback and having something to work towards, and them giving you something to work towards, is a really sign of respect. And you don't need to be afraid of getting corrected. You need to be afraid of the day when you stop getting corrected, because that means that your coaches have given up on you.
That is the best. That is the best summary ever in the history of mankind. You need to get out there and do a TED Talk. You need to get out there and do a TED Talk on that topic, right? That would help so many, particularly female athletes, but athletes in general, right? And it's so hard to say it's so easy to say all feedback is good feedback. And it is. If you're giving a speech and everybody walks out, that's some feedback. Okay. It's not working very well for whatever reason. But so the point being, all feedback is good feedback, and being able to look at it detached from that emotion of it's an attack on me personally, and it's actually here to help you get better. Right. So no, that's outstanding. And then I said it was the last question, but I actually have one more because I don't think we discussed it. Are you going to play in college?
That's my goal. Yes. Whether I have to walk on or I get a scholarship, I want to play.
Outstanding.
This is my passion project almost. I love doing what I do, and I love being able to work with other girls and have that sisterhood that comes from being a team.
Mm-hmm. It's the best, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And, with your 4 strengths, 1 being executing and 4 thinking, we don't see where your relationship skills and strengths are in this yet, but your report talks a lot about how you enjoy stories and fiction and getting to know people, right? So it isn't like you're this, robot out there pitching, right? You're not like that at all. And you could actually hear it in this conversation. And I'm sure people remark about how mature you are when they speak to you?
Yes.
Yeah, this is because you're one of the more mature juniors going into senior year that I've worked with. So
thank you.
I'm super excited. And thank you so much for your willingness to have this conversation today and being part of the Win Like a Girl journey. And the book will be out later this summer. Well, no, later this fall. That's a better way of saying it. And but we're definitely making progress. I got some feedback on the fictional portion of my book that I didn't develop the girl's story enough. So I got to go develop the girl's story, and you'll enjoy that more because I saw where it talked about how you liked fiction and the story, right? So
I love reading.
We might have to have you have a look at this.
Yeah, I'm excited. I might buy the book.
That sounds great. You'll be my first sale.
All righty. I want it reserved. Just
All
for
right.
Jacey.
Just for Jacey. That'll be our slogan. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. You've got a tournament this weekend. Good luck.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch. All right.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for having me.
You are most welcome. Thank you.